Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Uh, if you were at our last session, we went over kind of the framework, where you would even begin, where you would start hunting for these. Now I want to take you to the next step, which would be if you found an institution that want to give you financial help or has a grant of some sort. Like we talked about in our last session, sometimes you'll be done with college and you have a project you want to get off the ground and you'll need financing. These personal statements will go in line with that as well. But I did try to gear this towards more of an educational reviewer that would be looking at this. So let's dive in.
And just so everybody know, I'll put a link to where you can find the first course. I'll go ahead and find that and put it in chat for you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. And I believe everyone who attended got the slideshow. So I will do that again for this course. I will send it out to who I work with and they will get it to your students. Okay, let's get into it. So personal statements, they matter because their personal statements explain your motivation and goals, which, that's kind of fluff to you guys right now. But what they're really trying to do or get from you with these personal statements is basically how this money coming to you would help move your specific goal forward. So the one thing I'm going to repeat multiple times throughout this session is simplify. Make it simple. Don't use big intellectual words. I know a lot of people think that using high intellectual words gets across your intelligence, but that's not what they're looking for here. The personal statement really is a simple way to tell them who you are, your background, how that background goes into what you're applying for, and how the funding would then move you to your goal. That's what they really, really want to get out of here. So they want to connect past experiences to future plans, and they help the reviewer understand your potential. You want to get across your potential with this. So, just as it says here at the bottom, a strong personal statement does not simply repeat information from your resume, it connects the experiences and interests. So, the resume is just on paper, everything you've done. This statement is really tying it all together. So, what is a personal statement? A lot of students just think this is a listing of their accomplishments or all the great things they've done. And even though that is amazing, it has to be in line with what you're doing. So let's say you are trying to get funding to go to the next level of your education, and you start listing all the accomplishments you had in winning spelling bees or things like that. Unless you're going to college for spelling and those tie into what you're asking the money for, don't list it. Even if it's impressive, even if it was a very national recognized award, I would not list it if it's not directly going towards what you're trying to do. Um, Focus your explanation on academic or professional direction and experiences that prepared you for the opportunity you're pursuing. That's the big thing is if you're ever writing a personal statement, you really have to view it as an opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to move your life forward. And the more you express that in your personal statement, the more the reviewer is going to understand that, okay, if we give this person money, they're going to move towards their goal. And then on the reviewer side, they also have their own goals. When they put together this pool of money or they have applications to get a pool of money, they always have goals behind that. Whether, and a lot of organizations will have a spot on their site that may be called pillars or areas of focus or anything like that. And really, that's what you want to gear your personal statement towards. You want to fulfill whatever they're putting the money up for. So statements are not a resume summary, not the dramatic life story, which I think what a lot of people think of when they think of personal statements is that dramatic life story. I grew up very poor. I did all this stuff. I struggled to get where I'm at. That's always been promoted in movies. If you've seen anything about somebody writing a letter to get funding or anything, they're usually highlighting a dramatic story. That's not really how it works in the real world. And it you have a better chance of getting what you're trying to get by not being dramatic about your life story. And really a focused explanation of goals and preparation. So let's talk about the reviewer. So your personal statement will go in front of somebody. This person is the reviewer. These reviewers have a ton of applications to go through. Um, Sometimes they'll even have things they're looking for that if they don't see it, they just immediately write your statement off. So if there's any rubric, if there's any instructions, read them over and over and over again, because it can be that stringent when you're doing these or you're applying for funding. Um, Typically, it's not as severe as, oh, a misspelling will get your personal statement thrown out. It's never that severe, but they want to see clarity and they want to be able to read the first paragraph and be able to understand, like, oh, okay, yeah, you're firing in the right direction. Because if the first paragraph just starts with your dramatic story, they could be out already. Um, by organizing it clearly, which we'll get into later in this, the reviewers understand your story, but it's flowing all within this framework that ties it directly to the opportunity you are applying for. And then strong alignment with the opportunity is essential. That's why I said review any of the requirements they have tied to it. They're reading really quickly. So if you have, this goes back to that intellectual wording, if they have to reread a sentence more than two or three times, they're going to just give up and move on to the next one. So that's why it's really important and better for everyone if you make it as simple and as clear and concise as possible. The three core questions: what are your academic or professional goals? Why are these goals meaningful to you? And how this opportunity helps you achieve them. So when we talk about your academic or professional goals, it has to be in line with what you're applying for. So if your academic goal is to become a psychologist, but you're applying for something to do with animals, it may not pan out unless you're saying, by doing that, I've been in the psychological academic field. I am applying for this grant because I believe working with animals will help people's mental health. There, you've taken your academic and professional goals and tied it up really simply and clearly of why you would be doing something that's maybe outside the norm for that area. Why are they meaningful to you? That gets personal, but again, it has to be simple and it should be rooted in your preparation. And when I say that, it means they're meaningful to you because you took X, Y, and Z steps to get to where you're at now. That's what they're looking for. That's how it's meaningful, or they see that it's meaningful to you, that you've actually already taken steps towards your goal. And then how the opportunity helps you achieve them. Typically, the financing moves you to the next step, or you can use it with matching funds that you have from somewhere else. All of that can be tied to this opportunity that getting funded will help you achieve them. The purpose of the opportunity. I've said this a million times already, but essential to understand their mission and priorities. Whoever you are applying to, you have to check their whole website. It's just so important to do that, and something that a lot of people will skip on. Um, they'll get the application, it'll ask for a personal statement, they will write it with the application without going onto the website and looking a little further into it. It's it's just really easy to miss these few key words they may be putting in the program description or the eligibility eligibility criteria or past award recipients. And when I say past award recipients, sometimes they'll have a list of people who have won the awards already. So if you're going after a bigger grant that's maintained every year and has recipients that have won it, you do want to go and research them and see how they won it, what they did. If, you know, they may not, but some organizations will. If you reach out to them and say, hey, I am applying for a grant you recently won, is there anyone who could jump on a call with me and maybe discuss this or give me some tips and tricks about how you managed to get it, or even what the process looked like? you know um that's about 50-50. It's really how busy the person is you're contacting. If they don't have their plate with 10 different things on it, they'll probably take the time to help you even as a stranger. Common mistakes. So a lot of personal statements fail because they're just too general. They're using vague language. They say they want to do good things. That's the ultimate general statement. I want to do good things, or I want to do X, Y, and Z, help people. And that's great, but it's vague. You really got to hammer down. These are my past experiences that informed this problem to me, or this issue that I care about. I took these steps to move further in that area or issue I care about. Now I'm coming to you because I need funding for this area or mission I care about, if that makes sense. Um, Repeating information is another mistake. They already have your resume. So to clinically go through all the things you've done, it just doesn't make sense for them. Um, I've said this before: overly complex language. Sorry, I threw my shoulder out, so I might be moving a little weird here, guys. Sorry. But overly complex language can sometimes get your resume thrown out. And it goes back to just, if it takes too much to read one sentence, or they have to go over it a couple times, and it's not anything on their intelligence level, it's that they have to read hundreds of these in a day. So, if something's convoluted, they're just not going to take the time to understand it. They're just going to skip over it. And then lacking clear goals or direction. So, once you get the funding, are you relating to them what your goal and direction is once you achieve that funding? Or once the funding's used up, how you'll be able to continue on that goal or direction you have? So, strong statements prioritize clarity, reflection, and relevance. Those are the key three things that you want to remember. So, simple structure. Although personal statements vary across programs, a lot of them follow the same structure, which is the introduction that describes your motivation. The next is the background and relevant experiences, tying them into that first paragraph. That should all lead into your future goals. And then your final couple paragraphs is why the opportunity matters and how it's going to propel you forward. So, and when you're discussing the future goals, make sure they're always tying back. That's incredibly important. So, strong opening. Uh, Obviously, the critical role, because, like I said, if they're reading through that first paragraph and they are just not making sense of it, or it's not clear, or it doesn't even have anything to do with their mission, goals, and alignment, they will move forward. So, the opening paragraph is a very, very important piece. You want a strong opening that connects a defining experience, question, or interest. So if we go back to the psychology example, what was that defining experience that made you want to move forward in that? Or what defining experience that you saw a problem within that field that you are just determined to solve or to help out with? That would go a long way. And avoid the generic statements. Oh, education's so important, so I really want to continue my education. Yeah, it's important, but why is it important? Why is this education important? Is there something special about it that you will need that? Um, Trying to think of another generic opening. Sometimes people will use, if they had a rough background growing up, they'll start their intro paragraph with that. And though it could lend credence to what's going on, I wouldn't start with the dramatic story. If that is something that is a core background to why you're what you're doing, I would put in the middle of the document of the statement, not at the beginning. And it's not that it's not important, but that's how people open it uh, in a generic way that gets overlooked. Explaining your background. So after your opening statement, that's when you go into your background. You've already established what's important to you, why is it important to you, and then you're going into your background. The background is going to be the steps you took to go forward in this goal you have. So your academic experiences that strictly relate to it, the professional or internships that directly relate to it, research or projects that directly relate to it, and community involvement that directly relates to it. So let's say you are moving forward in a field that you have none of those in, and you're going blind, you're just wanting to get into an arena. That's okay. That's totally acceptable. Put in future endeavors that you would want to get involved with. So, your academic experiences, you are going to start your academic experience and you are planning on focusing it here, here, and here. So, if they see that you are planning to align your academic experience with your end goal, that's going to be stronger than just saying, um, I plan to have a great academic experience. Or on the other side, you're just listing all your academic experiences. Don't do that. Tie it all together. The internship experiences, sometimes it's really, really hard for people to get internship experiences because they're often unpaid. So if you have no internship experience, I would then go with a community involvement. And if you have none of it, then I would highly recommend you find a community within the arena you're going for and just get involved. Um, Almost any arena in the educational field needs more people. So it's not like you'll be too many cooks in the kitchen or anything. Find something, a community program, project that aligns with what you're trying to do and just get involved. And then you can use that towards your personal statement. When they talk about future goals. So the funders, the reviewers, they want to understand where you are going. They don't have to be perfectly defined where you're saying, okay, this is my 5 year plan, this is my 10 year plan. But you want to get across that you're thinking about your future in a way that is starting with this opportunity. That this opportunity, should you get it, is going to have an impact on your future. And this is how it's going to have the impact. You have your short-term academic goals that will be met by the funding or the financing, but then you have the long-term professional ambitions. It I love using psychology as the example, so I'll just stick with it. But if you are going to become a psychologist, there is so many fields within psychology that you want to be thoughtful about where you are heading. If you're just saying, I'm getting into psychology to get into psychology, it's such a wide road with so many branching paths that you'll have no idea where to go or what to take. And that's not what the reviewer wants to see. The reviewer wants to see that you are starting up this tree with a million branches, but you know exactly where you're going, or at least not exactly, you know where you're heading. And then intellectual and societal impact. A lot of people, it's called a personal statement, so they really keep their impact focused on them and their lives. But if you can show or tell them how your impact is going to affect the intellectual world or societal world, that's going to go a long way in helping the reviewer get behind you. So connecting the dots. Oh, the final element of a strong statement is clearly explaining why the specific scholarship, fellowship, program, whatever matters to you. Um, Instead of saying, oh, it's a great program and being part of this program will really help my career move forward. No, find that program, find somebody within that program, and then you're making it so much more detailed that I want to join this program because Professor Soto is head of it. And Professor Soto has done this, this, and this, which is what I am trying to do later in my life. And I believe learning under him would just help me bring these things to my community. So there you go. I just tied in the program, I tied in a specific person from the program, and then I tied it to that larger intellectual societal impact. The connections demonstrate both preparation and intentionality, which is the highlights that they're looking for. They want to see that prep and intentionality. Um, and that's really advice for anything in your life. If you are trying to get a promotion, if you're trying to move forward in any kind of aspect, um, preparing beforehand is visible. Researching beforehand is visible. You may not think so, but even an offhand comment that shows you were into their website or you're understanding the program, all of that's going to click something in their mind or their brain about you that, oh, this guy preps, this woman preps. That's actually a really rare skill. A lot of people love to just wean it off the cuff, shoot from the hip sort of style. But you can really, really, really convey that you are a prepared person by being a prepared person. Clarity and precision. I've harped on this the whole class so far, but you have to be clear. They're going through so many, and if you're using that intellectual vocabulary, that sophisticated or elaborate sentences, it's just not going to do what you think it will. There could be a little bit of resentment built up in the reviewer who has to read all these, and then they have like this thesis statement. They're on their 100th one, and then they get this thesis statement that is your personal statement, and it's just too much. They're done. um the clear writing reflects clear thinking. Just like I said, that prep shows, being clear is what they want, because as they train you up or whatever this program's going, you're kind of representing them. If they've given you money in any sort of way, you're representing them, and they want their representative to be able to get the ideas out clearly to other people. They don't want somebody who's going to make people confused or make people feel less than because they can't understand. The clarity, as silly as it sounds, is probably the most important part of a personal statement. Short, direct sentences to strengthen your arguments, no complex vocabulary. A clear narrative. So, a personal statement shouldn't feel like a collection of unrelated experiences. We've touched on this a little bit, but it's so easy for you to understand how you got to where you are. And the things that got you to where you are, there's probably 4 or 5 milestones that you think are so incredibly important. And though they are incredibly important, this reviewer only wants to see what's important to the project they're trying to move forward. Like I said, nobody puts up a pile of money just because. They are trying to get something through or move something forward with this chunk of money they're putting down. So make sure any narrative you are writing ties to what they want, ties to what they're looking for. Um, a lot of focus areas for these funders is how does it impact the community? So if you're giving background information about the community you come from, then tie it back towards the end how you want to bring this information back to your community. If you were somewhere that didn't have social service that you think is important, and all these other bigger cities have it, then you would want to go to school to get educated about it so you can bring it back to your community, start a pilot program, however you'd want to convey that to your reviewer. Um, Show how your goals developed over time. It's nobody has a goal that they set out when they were young, 18, and then followed it perfectly. Like I set a goal at 18 and there was nothing to change about it. That's just not how life works. So show that maybe you had a goal to get into psychology, but as you developed or as your education developed, you understood that child psychology is what's really important to you. And when you get into those cases, there's something about working with the youth that really resonates with you. That would show the goal developing over time, how it got sharpened, how it got honed, and just create a logical narrative of progression with this. Start from the beginning, Make it clear, make it simple. Confidence and humility. Anyone who does public speaking understands the fine line between confidence and humility of being able to be confident in what you are saying, but still relating to others that you have more to learn, that there's always more to understand. You don't want to come off as arrogant or a know-it-all. In fact, you are coming to them for money, and it's money to move something forward. So, in that moving forward, there has to be something new you're going to learn. Please, you have to describe that to them. You can't say that, give me this money, and then I can go in and tell them all how they can fix it. It's just, that's not going to fly with people. But if you say, I've identified this issue within this program, and I would love to get funding so I can work on it, but also understand the um, other issues that may be impacting it. I know this isn't a siloed event. I just don't know what other issues could be causing this to become so exacerbated. And then you're saying that you understand that there's an issue, you want to get into fix it, but that you are open to the idea that there may be factors that you can't control or factors that you haven't even thought of that may be impacting this, but you want to find out. And that reviewer is going to say, great, that's what we want to find out. Let's give them some money. Um, you can be confident and you can be humble at the same time. It is a tightrope, but I just really can't get across how important it is to walk that rope. Don't exaggerate or overstate. Show openness to learning and development, and you'll get through just fine. Preparation and readiness. So we've talked about kind of highlighting the relevant academic experience, what you learned from those experiences in the sense that it goes towards your opportunity. If you went through this experience that was about psychology, but what you learned from it was the power of friendship, that's not going to really be relevant or matter to the reviewer. But you got into psychology, you had this experience, and that experience was working with a kid who has autism. And now that really shaped that you want to get into the autism field of psychology. And that's what you're looking for money to go to the next step. That shows that past experience being relevant to the opportunity in front of you. Show curiosity. This one's very self-explanatory and kind of goes with that humility piece, but be curious. If you can get across a sentence or two that something you want to find out, something you want to figure out, or something you even want to know about the organization itself, that goes a long way in showing that curiosity. Uh, Especially if you're in the research field, they are looking for curiosity. That's what makes a researcher. And a lot of researchers are always looking for funding. Demonstrate engagement with learning. So, you had a class or a lesson or an experience. What was the engagement portion of that? Don't just say you were at class and learned, but you talked to the teacher afterwards, or you helped start a new study group that was surrounded around it. Whatever the engagement piece looked like with your experience. Impact and contribution. This kind of goes back to that community piece. If whatever you're doing, whatever the opportunity is you're looking at with this funding, um, you got to tie it back to the community or society as a whole. This can't be just something that benefits you alone. I know it's called a personal statement, but there's so many caveats to that. And one of them being that they want to see how investing in you invests in the world or the society or community. And then how do you know what they want to invest in? That goes back to looking at their website. If you look at their website and their focus areas, they will say if they're trying to have a global impact, if they're trying to have a national impact, a local impact. You'll find it if you look enough. Okay, so now we got some examples. I'm just going to read this out to you, but this would be an opening example. During my undergraduate studies in environmental science, I became increasingly interested in how urban development affects access to clean water in rapidly growing cities. While working on a community research project examining water quality in informal settings, I saw firsthand how infrastructure decisions can influence public health outcomes. These experiences led me to pursue further study in environmental policy so that I can contribute to the development of sustainable water management systems in growing urban regions. That's a lot. That's a thick paragraph, but it introduces the applicant's academic focus. It provides the specific reason that shaped their interest. It connects the past experience with their future goals, and it establishes that clear direction for the rest of the statement. So, this opening statement sets the tone for the rest of the personal statement. And you've done a great job of really encapsulating. The reviewer reading this first one already knows you're firing in line with what they're funding. Um, and as we move forward, I'm going to have an example of the middle and an end, but it's not going to be the same one because I don't want the examples to be in place of what you think should be said. So I want you to take all these different examples, beginning, middle, and end, and try to get the essence of it, not the word for word, because that doesn't matter. You have to just make sure you're checking off what's on the right, which is why it works. This is a middle. During my second year at university, I worked as a research assistant on a project examining food insecurity in urban communities. My responsibilities included conducting interviews with local residents and analyzing survey data on households' food access. Through this experience, I began to understand how policy decisions, economic factors, and community infrastructure intersect to influence food availability. The project not only strengthened my research and analytical skills, but also reinforced my interest in studying public policy as a way to address systemic challenges affecting community health. So now we're moving the next paragraph or paragraphs after the opening will be about your experiences. So it described a specific experience. It explained what they actually did with that experience, highlighted skills developed. It connected the experience to the broader academic interest, and it moved the narrative forward. And this would be the ending. Pursuing graduate study in public policy will allow me to deepen my understanding of how data driven decision making can improve food access in underserved communities. The opportunity to study within a program that emphasizes applied research and policy analysis will provide the training necessary to translate research findings into effective policy recommendations. Through this program, I hope to develop the analytical tools and collaborative skills needed to contribute to evidence based solutions that strengthen food systems and improve community outcomes. So, again, like I said, you have to look at this as an opportunity and then reference it as an opportunity within your personal statement. You want to connect whatever the program's resources are with how they're going to strengthen your goals or you as a person, reinforce the theme, and show future impact and direction. And then ending the statement with clarity about what they are hoping to develop. You know, that ending on hope is such a strong thing for the reviewer. Editing and refining. So I honestly say just take a stab at it right away. Do the whole thing, write the whole written statement with no editing or refining. And then once it's completely done, whether it's too long, too short, whatever, it's A to B finished, then go back and start editing and refining. See what you can simplify, see what you can take out, see if there's anything you're repeating yourself on. Even with the middle and end, there was a little bit of repetition that would have cleared out if I was in the editing refining portion of it. Um, and then remove any unclear sentences. So the common red flags. Like I said, reviewers are going through so many, and if they see any of these red flags, it may be enough to get your statement in the rejection pile. So those include the vague goals, overly dramatic storytelling, resume repetition, lack of connection to opportunity, overly broad ambitions, unclear structure, and exaggerated claims. Any of those will be a red flag to the reviewer. And the reviewer's probably already been in this field that you're applying for a while, so they'll be able to tell if you're stretching something. They know the arena you're applying in. So if you're saying all these huge goals or accomplishments, they will take the extra 5 minutes to go and check it and see if you're actually telling the truth. Because if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So they will double check those things if it sounds too good to be true. Just be honest, be upfront, be clear, and really get across how this opportunity is helping you and the community. So, key takeaways from this session is that your personal statements explain your direction and motivation. You need the clarity, you need authenticity, being yourself, and aligning your personal statement with the opportunity you're applying for. Um, One thing people love to do is just have one personal statement and send it to every opportunity they're applying for. I do not recommend that, and it's going to be so vague, it's going to hit the red flags if you're doing that. So don't, just take the time and do a fresh one for every single opportunity. And every single opportunity, check their website. Every single opportunity, do your research, and be prepared, because there is a lot of funding out there, and it's not that hard to get because a lot of people aren't following these simple rules. So if you just hold yourself accountable, uh, you just do the work that's listed in here, you will have a strong personal statement. Okay. And I believe we're at the discussion part. So let me pull up my screen so I can see the chat.
Carlos Quiroga, this is really, really good information.
Good, thank you. I am so happy to hear that.
Because we're in a world right now where a lot of the funding internationally seems to have, like US aid is no longer available because it was
Mhm.
cut from the US budget. But you're saying there's still money available out there.
Yes, and it's really going to be about hunting. So, if you are in one country and you are trying to go to school in another country, that country not only has country level grants, they're going to have local level grants, and then that intermediary between the local and the country government. So there's going to be three areas you can look for funding. Um, I'm from the States, so obviously we have grants that are nationwide, we have grants that are regional, and then we have grants that are at the local level. And I will say that the local level is the easiest funding to get, usually the smallest funding. Then you have the next level, which is a bit harder, way more competition. And then you have the national level, which is obviously the peak of the most amount of funding you can get, along with the most amount of work you have to do to get it.
I
So that
assume
should
that
all
one
be
of the
considered.
courses you'll do in this series is where to locate funding.
Yes, I generally went over that in the last one, and it was geared towards looking in your area or looking within your field. So I use psychology a million times. Psychology as an area will have grants, and that is not location specific. So there will be psychological grants in the US that can be applied outside the States, because they are just trying to move the mission forward of psychology, if that makes sense. So whatever field you're going into, you're going to look at that funnel to find funding. You're going to look at the funnel of the location. And then the third funnel would be you personally. Are you from an area that they're trying to develop people from? I'm from Michigan. So Michigan itself has a lot of funding for small business entrepreneurs based on ethnicity. And I'm actually full Mexican. So that opens me up to a select piles of money, basically, that are specifically put there for people like me. So you want to look on the level of yourself, the local of where you're located, and then the level of your field. Those would be the three areas you can search for funding in.
I don't see any questions yet. I know everybody, you have questions. Prepare your questions. We have plenty of
Yes.
time. And so, one question I have is, you're looking at a personal statement. So this is grant money for your own personal project. But what if you have an organization? Is it changes? It's not a personal statement anymore, correct?
Correct. They may still call it a personal statement, but you will be writing it from the perspective of your organization. So what experiences did your organization have, or where's the organization trying to go? Um, the only caveat to that is sometimes there will be funding for development of leadership within an organization, and then that personal statement would probably be geared towards the actual person applying for development. And that's another area that people kind of forget about, is that there is actual funding for developing you as a person just in whatever field you're going into.
Can you say that again? There's funding just to develop, like even your education?
Yes. So, and like I said, being a minority in the United States, there's funding specifically to move us forward. We're seen as disadvantaged in the United States. So if you fall under a disadvantage category, then those people have access to funding just to kind of make the playing field even. That's a very states thing. I'm not sure how many other countries kind of follow that thought pattern, but it's very big here, and we actually have a lot of groups that we determined are underserved. And sometimes it'll even be as basic as just a female-owned operation, female-owned business. They themselves have access to funding that men cannot get access to.
We have a question. Jean Renaud, let's go ahead and activate your microphone.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I want to thank Professor Carlos and Dr. Lambert for your help and for this beautiful presentation. It has
Thank you.
been useful. My question is, as a student living in Haiti, trying to help, how what kind of can give to us. I mean, not only for me, but for other students, that could help us, helping ourselves in terms of investing in ourselves. Just as I am learning here, um, if I could give AIU as a place that I'm studying, how they could help me. I know AIU gives me a scholarship, and by the way, I am giving a part of this. Now, if I could find this organization that could cover the amount that I'm, because living in Haiti is like, we are going to buy the US dollar, like the US could be almost 30,000 goods. See what if you see what I'm talking about here,
Mhm.
getting 200 US could be like 30,000 goods. Now, if I could find an organization that could help me paying, this would be very easy. If you could give an email or a website where I could write them, it would be very useful. Thank you for this presentation. It's very helpful as an entrepreneur.
Good. Thank you. And yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. Um, I really think we as as a world really have to invest in other people, because as you said, that price difference between the currency is so huge that what wouldn't be too big of someone to help here would be a huge help over there. And helping other countries develop, or helping students from other countries develop, makes the world a better place. So as you're looking for these funds, I would say, and I'm just doing a real quick search here, but there is something called the National Association for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. So that could look like $1,000 award to Haitian students and Haitian Americans. So it's for both. It's for Haitian and Haitian American students enrolled in a 2 to 4 year institution. But you're going to want to look at multiple levels. So you're going to want to look in Haiti itself for any kind of grants or scholarships they have for their students. Then you want to see if there's any Haitian groups that operate in America with a focus on scholarships. So that's just going to be a ton of research on your end, but you will be able to find those two caveats. And then also, if you look in whatever field you are developing in, I'm sure that field itself will have funding to get students in that field. Does that answer the question? And I can leave my contact information. Anyone who wants to connect with me further can.
Sean Renaud writes in the chat to please give the website or an email.
Oh, yes, very good.
And Agostinho, you ask about having the presentation. The presentation will be available in your student portal in about 2 days.
Perfect.
Just look up the class. It'll be a past class. Open it up and you'll see a download link to download the presentation. There we go. There is the link from Carlos Quiroga. I don't see any more questions, but as I was looking through your examples that you were giving for the personal statement, it really felt like you get a sense of who the person is personally. It's like you can like develop like an emotional connection to feel who they are, and that's really what you're striving for, so that you can
In a
connect
sense,
to
a
them.
personal,
Go ahead.
yep, a personal connection that falls in line with the opportunity, because you don't want them to have that personal connection to you. Just what a great person. This is a great person, and I feel they're great. That you want them to think this is a great person for my program, which is two separate sentiments. So if you can get that relationship building across through the opportunity and your experiences, tying them together, that's the best relationship to make.
Is it hard to get the sense of reliability? Like the person's a reliable person? Is it hard to get that through in a personal statement?
It can. So I really recommend that community piece, that you volunteered at a community place or a community project, because that's what's going to show that. Because it's so hard to work with a group of people. It's just so hard to work with people on any level and anywhere. And I'm sure all the students here have run into very rough personalities on their academic journey. So that being said, if they see you've worked in a community project, they know you've been tried by fire, basically.
All right, we have a question from Patricia. I think you're ready to go. Just activate your microphone. Ugochukwu.
Yes, please. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this lecture. I will say I really learned a lot. But for this founding of a thing, it must have some age ranges. It must
Yes.
have some age ranges, maybe from this age to this age. So even though the person falls into the age range, and sometimes the men look at it like, okay, Nigerians, we have some negative, how will I put it, some of this thing that they see Africans for or Nigerians for because of what is going on in the country. Will they give us such support?
Yes. But it won't be everybody. There will be organizations that are specifically firing for that. So I'll do the same thing. I'll see what's available for Nigerians.
Sorry. Stop disturbing my life.
Everybody, if you really realize how valuable this class is, there's money out there in the world, and Carlos Quiroga is giving you the way to attract that money to you in a very sophisticated way. Like, you don't want to just have one personal statement that you send to everybody. You want to customize that personal statement to the granting agency that you're sending to.
And I just put I believe it's a US based organization, but specifically with a foreign student program.
Fulbright Online.
Yep. So this may be something that has scholarships available. The other would be, let's see.
By the way, is there a certain number of words that are correct? Like 150 words make a good personal statement. You don't want to go to 400.
This goes back to the rubric, or they should have some kind of statement about what they're looking for from the personal statement. So if they are concerned with a word count, they will put a word count in there. They'll say 1,000 words, 2,000 words. But it will typically be about one full page, maybe 2 pages. But typically one full page will be where you want to fire for a personal statement. A opening, maybe 2 middle, and 1 ending paragraph.
And
Okay.
if you're not going to repeat your resume, can you put in the personal statement, see my resume?
You can, but they should
Okay.
be reading that before they get into your personal statement. They should get your file, they'll read your resume, and then they'll get into your personal. That's how they know it's repeating in the personal statement, because they're like, oh my God, you already told me this in the resume, and then blah. But if you are listing a community program and you're only putting one sentence about it, you may want to put see resume for full details. That would be appropriate.
Little subtleties to how to make this work. You have a lot of experience, Carlos Quiroga.
Yeah, thank you. I am so based in the United States that I want to really expand my help and information outside of here. So this is such a great opportunity. I really appreciate everyone here. You guys are amazing.
Most of our
Okay.
students come from countries around the world. And so the granting opportunities, do you have a consulting service where you help people around the world to develop their grants?
Typically, so I run a business called Oak Desk Planning, and it's focused on helping people start nonprofits. But it's very similar. It's a lot of grant work, and very similar to helping students get funded for their projects, which sometimes themselves become nonprofits as a way to get funding.
And so if you help somebody to get paid, do they pay you directly or do you get like a portion of the grant money?
So that's actually not really kosher in the United States. It may be in other parts of the world, but we try to just get paid an upfront fee and not get a percentage of the grant. They are starting to change that in America a little bit with something called an administrator fee. But that's typically if I will be doing work on the grant after it's already been received.
Because sometimes lawyers, you'll get a fee to have the lawyer do the work, but sometimes the lawyer receives a portion of the judgment.
Yep. Yeah. And that's typically just for payouts. So like if we have a criminal case, you can't do anything like that. So they do watch it, but when it comes to helping people find money, they want that money to go strictly to the person or the project and not to the person that helped them write it. So if you have somebody that wants to write your grants for you and ask for 10%, I would just check the laws where you're at. And like America, it's not a law against it, but it's kind of one of those unwritten rules that if funders see it, they will kind of blackball you and not give funding if they see your name on an application.
Patricia, did all of your questions get answered?
Yes, please.
Okay.
It does.
Then we'll go to Cleopatra. Let's go ahead and activate your microphone, Cleopatra Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Lambert. Thank you, Carlos. That was great. At least you helped us learn a lot today. You have cleared our doubt. In the area, as a student, having an interest in the area of agriculture, wanted to have a grant, so helped outsource my agriculture projects. I just want to ask, where can I look out to, and how can you help me, because I've already been stranded in that area.
Okay, very interesting. Because there should be,
question.
I was just going to say there should be a ton of money for agriculture, but then I remembered Bill Gates has his hand in it right now, so it might be a little weird because he's messing everything up. But agriculture is a growing concern, I'll say. Even here in the States, our agriculture, our farmers are really struggling because a lot of major corporations have gotten into that field and kind of monopolized it in a sense. But that being said, I think the world is starting to acknowledge that, and there is going to be more agriculture grants coming out. So this is another thing where you're going to look for agriculture grants. Oh, and you know what? You could do agriculture grants for women specifically. That might be a field that you could fire in that would have more traction than just general agriculture grants. Because I would imagine too, that's also, at least in the States, it's very male dominated. So there's probably funding to help women grow more agriculture-like programs. So let's see. What country are you in specifically?
I'm in Liberia, West Africa. Liberia, West Africa.
Okay, so the first thing that comes up is the Seeds of Change, which is a global fund for women. So I'm going to put that into the chat. And as basic as this sounds, a Google search goes a long way of just really firing in those dynamics. Go into Google and say, I am a woman from West Africa looking for grants for agriculture. And you're going to have to do research because, like I said, you're going to want to read all those pages and see what they're funding, what their priorities are. But if you see something that aligns, then go through and start doing what you need to apply for it.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Yes, we
thank you
did
all.
only learn, but we achieved something great. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
That's beautiful. I love that.
You'll see that Carlos Quiroga is putting links into chat. It'll take you to sources where you can view opportunities for grants. There is a question here from Peruk. I am from Ethiopia. My friend has an emerald mineral, I think a mine, and has a finance problem to proceed. So is there any grant for this sector? So they need some like refinancing to keep the operation going. Sounds like.
Yeah. Let's see.
Because it's interesting. If you look at mining, is it risky? I mean, is it something you can trust if you're just granting money to an operation, or should they be looking towards investors?
So we'll have different options. Like the first two that come up, there's one called the Emerta project, and that focuses on upgrading the mining equipment. So there's going to be different things you could get funding for. Some is going to be getting the equipment you need to run the business. Some will be a micro or small business loan to help get the business off the ground, or just grants. So there's, reimbursements for equipment sometimes. There's fresh money to get new equipment. And then there's money just for developing the business. And that can either be done through a micro loan or for grant. Typically, if you're going and doing a micro loan from specific organizations, the return payment's going to be really favorable to you. And if it's something like 10 or 15%, then I wouldn't jump into that.
So
but let me put
if you're
these
having a
links
cash
into
flow problem, that's really a micro loan.
Yep. Great questions. I love how diverse they are.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of classes here in this series on grants. And so this one's particularly about personal statements, how to present yourself at the beginning of the grant. And that is so important, right? Because if you can get someone to go through your personal statement and keep on reading, okay. That's the first
step
hurdle.
because they like you.
That's the first hurdle you have to jump over. And then the following classes will talk about the other hurdles you have to jump over to get them really interested in your project. So stick around and watch this series of courses. This is really powerful.
And Baruch, right there, I mean, that's already a statement that could go into the personal statement. There's a study that revealed ample source of emeralds and a shortage of finance to grow this partnership to get those resources. You know, that could be something a micro loan or even a grant would look at and be like, okay, yes, let's get more resources out of this portion of Ethiopia.
Why do you like that way? Why do you like the way it was written?
The study, you know, the fact that he knows of a study already and that study had to be done. I don't know if he did anything to move it forward, but that's that prep piece. You know, he knows something about it already. That's a true verifiable fact.
I had one student down in Malaysia who was putting together a school, and she was able to find funding through Japan. And she said that one thing she learned is that they really look for people who are doing research, especially using statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you'd want to put
Anything that
forward in
shows
your
your
personal
prep.
statement?
Yes. Anything that shows you have done research or prep should go in that personal statement. Like I said, as long as it ties into the opportunity at hand, that is the best way to move forward.
In any publications, that's resume. You don't have to repeat that in the personal statement.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we're running to the end here of the hour. I don't see any more questions. Do you have anything more to add before we close?
No, that's it. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for your questions. I am just very honored and happy to be here.
Are you open to putting out your email into chat so
Yeah.
if they have questions?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes when it comes to financing, some students may think, well, I don't want to put my information out there because it's kind of like, how do you say
Yep.
it? It's mine.
Yeah.
Proprietary, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Great name, the Oak Desk Planning. Great name.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that'll do it. Everybody, I'm going to allow everybody to unmute their microphones so that they can say thank you and bye. Wonderful. Excellent class.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Professor
so
Carlos.
much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You
Thank
guys
you,
are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, this class is going to open up opportunities for financing, growth, education, building things, projects, you know, how to get that money to get your ideas moving.
Yes.
Thank
so
you very
powerful.
much. Thank you very much, Dr. Lambert. Thank you, Professor Carlos.
Yes.
It was a very useful presentation. Thank you very much.
Very
All right.
good. Glad
That'll
everyone's
do it.
happy. Thank you.
Carlos Quiroga, we look so
Yes.
much forward to having you back.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful day, everyone.
It's
Bye-bye.
a diamond. The class is a diamond. Thank you.